All right, welcome everyone who's out there listening to my podcast, Mastering the Numbers. I am Joe Mallo with Elite Edge Consulting Group. We are powered by Focal Point Business and Executive Coaching. My guest today is Rachel Luther, owner of Check Off Your Lists. Welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. To get us started, Rachel, tell us a little bit about your company, Check Off Your Lists.
Yeah, so we do virtual back office support, and it started with myself doing executive assistance and bookkeeping services, but over the last 13 years, it has grown to really full back office support. So that expands to marketing and even more specific executive assistance and bookkeeping than what I was offering, and then also web design and HR, IT support. So really the full back office support with the idea that business owners and professionals can focus on their expertise and what they enjoy about their day to day and to have a greater impact in the areas that they're most passionate about. So that's really what we do in a nutshell.
That's great. And we were talking a little bit earlier, helping business owners find a little bit of work-life balance is just so critical. So I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. Let's just go into a couple questions that my audience is always curious about. I guess what inspired you to start your own business?
Actually, it was I was pregnant with my oldest daughter and I wanted to make a little income on the side. So I decided to offer bookkeeping and executive assistance services with the goal of making $500 a month for some just extra spending money for our family. And that was 13 plus years ago now, almost 14. And it just kind of took off from there. And so, but that was the initial spark. I knew I wanted to do something while having my daughter, but I wanted to be able to be home with her and be present in those young years. And that was kind of the way that I was able to do both.
That's fantastic. A lot of times I talk to many people where, just being so close to family is so critical. And it makes a big difference in starting a business, trying to be close. So good for you. Good for you. So what are some of the common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
What I run into the most in the businesses that I work with, and I struggle with this personally myself, is having to do everything yourself. It's oftentimes your baby, you're passionate about it, and you feel that you want it to succeed more than anyone else. And you're not wrong. You are
Right.
personally invested. But there comes a point where you can't do it all yourself and you need more expertise from other people. And so I think the biggest issue is no one else is going to care like I care because as I found people who are passionate about different areas of business, their passion for that task and for doing what they love overcompensated for their lack of maybe passion for my business in the way that because it's mine. And so that was the biggest thing that I realized as I was starting to delegate. The other thing I feel like as far as business owners, and this is my own personal experience, but think other people might feel the same way. I felt bad asking people to do things I didn't want to do myself. I felt like I was pawning off things. And then I realized that someone else was actually excited to do it. And the perfect
Right.
example is when I started delegating with the HR that I had to do as I was growing my team and hiring. I absolutely hated going through all the applications that people would submit for a position to be filled. It felt like a waste of my time, and I was so frustrated going through all of that. And when I had someone who was passionate about HR, she got so excited when we were starting to hire a new position because she got to go on a treasure hunt to find that gold piece in all the applications, so to speak. And so I realized in that moment, like a light bulb went on that, oh, someone else is actually excited about this task that I dread and put off and is slowing my business down because I keep not doing it. And that was, I think, another thing that was a big growing area for me as I was growing my business.
When you started delegating certain responsibilities that you didn't want to do anymore or you didn't have time to do,
Mhm.
how much on a percentage basis, how much time did it start freeing up for you to do other things or just bring more time into your personal life?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a quantifiable number at that point in time, like not a specific number is coming into place, but what I often did is to figure out is it possible and is it helping me was to focus on the areas that I knew I was the least skilled at. And then I realized that someone else did it faster and
Yeah.
they were energized by it. So I quickly learned that what might take me an hour took them 30 minutes. And
Right.
so just by basic math,
Yeah.
that bought me time back in the day. And I actually delegated a lot of my business because I had my daughter and then I had three other children all very close together. So I then very much started delegating so many things because those minutes were few and those years were few and I wanted to be
Right.
present for those. Everybody has a
Right.
different life and a different situation, but that's where I found myself. And
Right.
so I don't know that there's I bought back 10 hours a week, but
Right.
oftentimes when I realize I'm spending 5 hours on this or 10 hours on this every week, I will get that in more because the task is done better. And so it's making a greater impact. And then
Yeah.
also, I am free to focus on other things and I am more productive and making a greater impact in my business. Not to mention, I just enjoy my day better. So I'm more motivated to work and I'm more energized by it and I have a longer stamina for my day.
Yeah.
So that all bought me more time.
That is great. I think that's a lesson that a lot of people can learn. So for sure. So how do you maintain your work-life balance?
I have a process every so often. It's not like routinely by any means, not every week I do this or every 6 months, but I know when I am getting overwhelmed. I can tell.
Right.
I get short with my family. I get stressed. I find myself wanting to work instead of being elsewhere, and it's not healthy. So then when I find myself in that, it typically either takes my husband with a gentle reminder to be like, hey, we don't need to be like this. And or
Right.
me taking that initiative to go through all of my responsibilities and figure out what do I have to do and what can someone else do. And have a constant list of these are my responsibilities in work, in with my kids, because I also homeschool my children. So then the responsibilities with homeschooling, with just general parenting and chauffeuring, and then with my house, like all of the responsibilities in my life are taking up my brain space. And so, whatever that is, keeping a to do list and keeping a master list of that, and then strategically going through it and saying, where am I making an impact and where is it wasting my time? And by doing that routinely, I can always pinpoint more things that need to go somewhere else and that someone else can handle for me, whether that's on my team or hiring someone else, or, maybe it's someone to come clean my bathrooms every so often, just so I don't have to worry about it. So there's a
Right.
variety of ways that I can solve that problem, but that check in with myself every so often and that method is what helps me with that work life balance on a very practical level.
That's great. But you have a lot of things going on. I mean, homeschooling kids, 3 kids, right?
4 kids, yes,
Four
yes.
kids. Okay. So homeschooling 4 kids, you own your own business.
Yep.
How do you stay motivated and focused? There's a lot going on there.
Well, that is a great question. I personally, with my personality, motivation is not something that I lack. I wake up and I feel best when I am accomplishing something. Resting and just existing, which has its own value for sure, is more my struggle. So on that front, I have that natural motivation, but I think the biggest thing I struggle with right now is prioritizing where I want to focus that. Because I am a mom of 4 kids who chooses to homeschool. I do run a company. We have 20 plus employees and full
Wow,
back office support all across the United States and Canada. Like it's a big task to overtake as well. And then I also perform in Columbus as an actor in commercials and small films and theater. And so all of those things are different areas of my life that I'm passionate about and enjoy. And so
yeah,
it's really niching into those activities that I love about them. I frequently will evaluate each of those things and why do I choose this? Why do I say yes? And if I can narrow in on that, then that's the part that I hold on to, and the other parts I delegate. So I don't do lesson plans for my children because I did not choose to homeschool to be a teacher. Never wanted to be a teacher. They
right.
are amazing, phenomenal people that I would aspire to be if I were a better person. But
Right.
And I didn't become an actor to be looking for gigs and finding that next job. And
Yeah.
so I delegate the lesson plans for my kids. I have an agent who finds me and books me things because I
Right.
want to show up on set and do the part I love.
Right.
And same with my kids. I want to be with my kids doing their math and English and all of that. Not because I give a care about math or English, but because I want to be there with my kids. And
Of
same
course.
with check off your list. I delegate those things that I am not as passionate about. I'm passionate about where we're going, what we're doing, the CEO level tasks, not the HR or the bookkeeping or the day-to-day things to keep our IT up and functioning. And so I delegate those things, and that is what keeps me motivated when it comes to, oh, I have a full day. It's a day of things I enjoy.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. The business landscape has been evolving a ton. I mean, it always has, but especially over the last 3 to 4 years, things have just been changing and changing. Look, I mean, we're sitting here on Zoom. This is not something that I would have been doing 4, 5, 6, 10 years ago, of course.
True.
So in this ever evolving landscape, I mean, how do you stay adaptable and how do you stay open to change?
One of the things is surrounding myself with people who know more about things that I don't know. And that's a big thing. So listening to my team on
Mhm.
marketing changes and, well, what is with social media? What's the algorithm doing today? I don't know,
Right.
but
Mhm.
they know. So listening to
Right.
other people, listening to my CFO on the trends of the market and what we need to plan on and what we need to do in those next Q3, Q4 of the following year, not
Right.
right now this minute, because we'll build to that and we're working towards that now. So that I feel like is really what helps me do that in all the various areas. Listening to other people who focus on that because I don't want to dig up that information. I don't want to dig
Right.
into all of those things. So I choose to listen to people who that's what they like to do.
Right. Right.
So I feel like that's the biggest thing that's
Okay.
helped me so far is listening to people who focus on that.
Yeah, just leaning on your company, leaning on your people. That's great.
Mhm.
Are there any specific strategies you use to remain innovative?
I would say we spend a good bit of time looking at our competition, for lack of a better term, look
Okay.
at
Yeah.
what we're doing, see what other people are doing, and can we learn from it? I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I'm willing to learn from other people. And so figuring out, oh, this works, this doesn't. And that's how we've delved into the various niches that we do at Check Off Your List. It started out me offering bookkeeping services and executive assistant services. Type A personality, very organized, very wonderful executive assistant, and I love numbers, and I have an education in accounting and bookkeeping. So that was
Right.
easy for me. But then people started being like, well, hey, can you do some social media for me?
Right.
And okay, so listening to what people are asking for, and then we've just grown into those things, but by bringing in the people who know what they're doing in that, because I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in
Right.
all the various areas of check off your list. But we have a director of marketing, a director of operations, a director of HR, a director of IT who keep up with those things. So I
Yeah.
guess listening to what our clients are asking for has been a huge thing for us as I'm
That's
talking
great.
about it. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. You have to listen to your customers, and that's why we're here today. So as far as your company's concerned, I mean, can you offer us a kind of a glimpse into your future plans? What's the future hold for check off your list?
Yeah. So I started it to make $500 extra income on the side, not knowing what in the world I was getting myself into.
Right.
um, I am very much a go big or go home type of a personality, and I commit to things when I say yes to them, and I'm in. And that quickly became there's not a one-stop shop back office solution. You can't find a virtual back office support or a virtual assistant as the some aspects are called. um, you can't find that where it meets all of those needs. You can find this section over here and you can find an independent virtual assistant who's very good at this, or you can find a company that niches into these things, but there's no Amazon.com, if you will, of virtual back office support. And so that is kind of what we've leaned into over the years, and that's what we have created for our clients. And they're able to then have experts in all of the various areas because none of them need a full-time insert whatever, but they
Right.
need that expertise. And so they can have the value of someone who knows what they're talking about and who can guide them at that higher level without having to pay that salary. And so that is what we have created and are continuing to create as we expand into all of those back office areas, which has been an evolution over time.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
one day we added all of these things. It was slowly as we grew the team and had the capacity to support in an effective way. Because if we grow too fast and can't support well, we're going to end up backpedaling real quick because
Right.
people aren't going to be happy.
Right. Well, as you continue to grow and in the current business climate, what are the biggest challenges you foresee that could be stumbling blocks potentially,
For just
if any?
in businesses in general,
Just business in general. Like, is there anything you see out there?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of people have to overcome is kind of what we're talking about is staying up with the trends and being willing
Yes.
to be innovative and change. The thing I hate to hear the most is, well, we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
And that is, well, is it working? And maybe it is. There's something to be said for not fixing something if it's not broke. But oftentimes we're having this conversation because it's not working. And
Right.
so that I think is to always be evaluating processes and improving and not to just accept that's the way you do it because that's what happens. Because softwares are always updating and things are always changing, ideally for the better. And so
Right.
continuing on that and considering all of those things, living documents and growing with them and constantly evaluating your processes is a big thing that I don't see people do because it's comfortable to stay right where you're at. I already know I know how to do it this way and it's comfortable. And that's not always best for the long term.
Well, and that's how companies get left behind. You see it happen
Yeah.
all the time,
Mhm.
all the time. So, final question then: what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur that's just getting started, or an upstart company that's facing challenges? Well, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say to, in my experience, focus on what it is that made you start that adventure. What excited you about starting that business or that, that new position? Because sometimes it's even just taking a different position and it's maybe not even a new business, but leaning into that, always remembering that that's what you want to be your focus, and more quickly than you think you need to, learn how to delegate those tasks that are weighing you down. And that would be what I focus on. The biggest thing I hear at that point is, well, when can I afford it? How can I afford to delegate? And I often talk to people about revenue producing activities. Like if you have too much work that is bringing you money that you can't get everything done, then focus on the areas that are bringing in money and you can more than pay for a team to do those other things. Because I guarantee they're probably being paid more per hour for their deliverable than what they're paying a back office support team. So that is the advice that I talk a lot of new business owners through. And that is a lot of what I had to learn over the years when considering growing my team and what is next for my business when I started to get overwhelmed and be working way too many hours. How do I deal with that? And I feel like a lot of business owners are in that place and they don't know what that next thing is.
Well, that's some good advice. So, um, well, listen, I appreciate you being a part of my podcast. I certainly hope that your company check off your list. This helps get your name out there even more than it already is. And once again, I really appreciate you being out there. Thank you, Rachel, for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you,
And
Patty, for
thanks,
having me, Joe.
absolutely. And thank you, everybody out there, for being a part of Mastering the Numbers. Have a great day and have a great week. Take care.